Welcome everyone to History Gone Wilder, part of Have History Will Travel. I'm your host, the Wilder historian, Dr. Lucas Wilder, and last time, the early morning hours of July 3rd saw Richard Ewell's division attack Culp's Hill in an unsuccessful attack. Now the battle shifts to the east, with a climactic cavalry battle between Jeb Stuart and George Armstrong Custer. If you like what I do, please consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't done so already, join the Patreon page, and purchase something from one of my online stores. Every little bit helps. Thank you. On the afternoon of July 2nd, Confederate Cavalry Commander Major General Jeb Stuart rode to meet with the Army Commander Robert E. Lee. Although not much information is known about their meeting, it was described as cold. Stuart rode around the Union Army using the leeway that Lee gave him in confounding the Federals during the invasion. However, Stuart got cut off from Lee and could give him no information as to the whereabouts of the Union Army of the Potomac. During this meeting with Lee, Stuart received his orders for his part in the Battle of Gettysburg. The next day, he was to operate on the far left of the Confederate line and get into the rear of the Union Army, causing as much havoc as he could. Stuart rode out to the east with the intention of getting close to Richard Ewell's corps and the rear of the enemy. It was around 1 p.m. when Stuart ran into Federal cavalry from David Gregg's division at the intersection of the Hanover Road and Low Dutch Road. An artillery duel erupted as the superior Union guns battered Stuart's horse artillery. The Federal cannons disabled many of their opponent's artillery and the horses they used to pull them. Soon the rebel cannons went silent. The Union horsemen of the 1st New Jersey engaged with the Confederates first, exchanging volleys with the enemy. But help was quickly on the way. The 3rd Pennsylvania went forward, splitting into 2 commands, placing a squadron on each flank of the men from New Jersey. The 34th Virginia Battalion withdrew to restock their ammunition, but the reprieve didn't last long. The horsemen saw soldiers from the 14th and 16th Virginia Cavalry retreating, so they rejoined the line quickly. The 16th barely had 50 men in it, and their brigade commander stated the 14th wasn't known for its gallantry. Stuart quickly threw 2 regiments from John R. Chambliss's brigade to extend his line further south. Gregg saw now that Stuart's men overlapped his left flank and dispatched the 6th Michigan to the 3rd Pennsylvania's left flank, with the 5th Michigan coming up right behind. Unfortunately for the Wolverines, the 3rd Pennsylvania and the 1st New Jersey were running low on ammunition. They began to fall back, which resulted in the rebel regiments launching a counterattack. But the 6th Michigan carried Spencer repeaters and were able to beat them back. Nevertheless, McIntosh's men needed ammunition, and this necessitated their withdrawal, disengaging with the Virginians. The 1st Virginia Cavalry gave chase and made the Union withdrawal quicker. George Armstrong Custer rode up to the 7th Michigan, seeing his other units in peril, and said, "Come on, you Wolverines," and they charged the 1st Virginia. A hand-to-hand engagement emerged, but Custer's men realized they had moved past any support, especially since part of Chambliss and Wade Hampton's brigades gave chase to the Federal horsemen. The Federals removed themselves from the fight, and Stuart formed up his troopers under Hampton and Fitzhugh Lee. Mounted, the 2 Confederate brigades advanced across the fields, determined to capture the intersection of the Hanover Road and Low Dutch Road, as well as rout the artillery and infantry located there. Custer gathered the 1st Michigan Cavalry and charged the rebels, resulting in one of the most famous cavalry charges of the war. The sounds of men and horses running into one another created a horrendous sound that echoed across the Pennsylvania countryside. Still yet, the Michiganders weren't alone. The previously dispersed Federal regiments hit the flanks of Stuart's command, and the confusion and melee intensified as men slashed at one another with their sabers, and pistol shots rang out at close range. Realizing he couldn't break through the Federal defenders, Stuart ordered a withdrawal, giving the field to Gregg's horsemen. In the distance, both sides could hear a huge cannonade that was tapering off. It was to precede a major attack on the Union center. Stuart could do little in the way of interfering with the Federal rear and causing disruption in their communications. Stuart described the bloody cavalry fight in this way. Mounted fights never lasted long, but there were more men killed and wounded in this fight than I ever saw on any field where the fighting was done mounted.